Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Me on MMA podcast, talking about UFC Baku for predictions and also recapping UFC Vegas 119. Before we get into either of those, let's do the usual anti-gambling rant. I'm going to talk about things you can use for betting purposes. I'm going to talk to you about what I am betting on. I am going to give you betting odds. However, MMA betting is not a smart way to make money. It is a chaotic sport. It has a lot going on behind the scenes that makes it unpredictable. By its very structure, with the small gloves particularly, it is an absolute pain in the butt to predict. And that's why it's hard. That's why it's rewarding. But keep the betting smalling, keep the betting under control. That is all. Let's roll on. So UFC Vegas 119 has come and gone. Metal Cop knocking out Kyoji Horiguchi in a fight that I think people are remembering a bit weird because people seem to be under the impression that Horiguchi was dominating and definitively up 2 rounds and whatever. And I didn't think so. Like the first round I gave to Kape because he had the only big damaging shots of the round, and the round featured less than 20 strikes landed between the two of them. I understand it. The low pace seems like it's a Horiguchi type of thing. I get that. And I don't have a problem necessarily with you scoring the round for him. But round 2 was largely won by 3 minutes and 45 seconds of top control off a takedown that really didn't go to much. So dominance is a bad word, I think. In the third round, the pace starts to up just a little bit, just a smidge on the pace dial. And Kape hunts Horiguchi down and knocks him out. And people, of course, are coming up with the theories, the accusations of roid use. Probably, this is MMA. Because during the time in which Kape was being tested by USADA, he wasn't knocking people out. That being said, I think part of that is just the competition. Like, he fought Muhammad Mokaev, he fought Felipe Dos Santos, who's a tough guy. He fought David Dvorak, who's a tough guy. He knocked out Jumagulov, he knocked out Ode Osborne, he lost split decisions to Mathalis Nicolau, who slows the fight down. And Pantoja, who's very, very tough. So there's probably some truth towards the whole, him using steroids, and also why fighters who are older are starting to win fights and extending their prime and so on. We have an unprecedented number of new champions over the age of 35. But I would say that that just doesn't really matter. I've said this, this is the reality we live in, that roids are a thing. We're kind of stuck. We're kind of stuck with it. Navajo Sterling, Ion Cutelaba was a fight that people are accusing of being fake. I will admit that if you were to fake a fight, this is how it would be. But at the end of the day, this is also just how Cutelaba loses. He runs out of gas and then just gets smoked. So that's it. Cutelaba had some interesting stuff with some takedowns. He got 5 of them. That was pretty cool. Particularly working the hip toss leg sweep. Very nice. Very good work. Really loved going for the guillotine choke, which again makes me think that no, this is not a fixed fight, because he was looking to get a choke in, and I don't think he would if you were trying to throw the fight. He tested some things about Sterling that are good and bad. The good side is Sterling didn't fold under pressure. I think we knew that was already the case. He out-grappled or out-wrestled Cutelaba well enough to get back to his feet. Got taken down 5 times, only ended up with 3 minutes top control for Cutelaba. Ended up with 2 minutes of his own top control. So that's good. On the dark side, though, wasn't able to define the fight in a way that kept Cutelaba at range. So it probably still indicates there's a ceiling to Sterling, but it indicates that he is mature beyond his years and can handle adversity. So that's good. And also, let's be clear. There's not a lot of guys at the top of the division that fight like Cutelaba. I was having this conversation with someone today about Alex Pereira, and how basically his thought was that Poatan was protected really and pushed artificially by being allowed to avoid grapplers at 205. And it's just like, you're not wrong, because they definitely did push him. They definitely did strap the rocket to him. But there are very few wrestlers, very few competent grapplers at the weight class to begin with. You could theoretically have Sterling run to a title shot without ever fighting another wrestler. So there's that. It was a good fight. It was a fun fight, but it was not a co-main event material. Christian Rodriguez did his thing against Hyder Emil, clubbed him, got a guillotine choke, and did the deed. I'm fine with that. It's not how I picked Rodriguez to win necessarily, but I'll take it. Hyder Emil continues to be a dangerous but largely ineffective fighter. Melsik Bagdasaryan got Scottish twisted by Murtazali Magomedov. By the way, why was this card fight not booked for the Baku card? Because Bagdasaryan is local talent to a certain degree. He's Armenian. And Magomedov is also, I think, local talent of the Caucasus. So that feels a bit weird. But good win for Magomedov in his debut. Again, Bagdasaryan is a weird case because he's good enough to win fights in the UFC and he has dangerous athleticism. But he's also just so breakable with pressure that it feels like anyone should be able to just beat him. But like, he remains dangerous, so like he probably will win just enough fights to hang around for a while longer. It's just, I don't know what to do with him, I guess, in the end of the day. Vinicius Oliveira beat Andre Fili. Andre Fili did some of the things I was hoping for. Some of the things I thought would be good. For example, the body kicks looked really, really good. The movement looked actually okay. But he eventually got caught up alongside the fence. Also, Oliveira shook off it's seemingly like 2 leg injuries to keep the pressure on. But yeah, he eventually just kind of he bowling balled into Fili eventually. Hurt him along the cage, started landing elbows to the back of the head. Herb Dean was the referee, which did not help given the Gon and Poatan aftermath. So Herb Dean, I don't know, you have something to explain, but it didn't affect who was going to win the fight anyways. Oliveira was clearly able to eat Fili's best shots. 145 is a great home for him because he didn't seem small. He didn't seem intimidated by more size parity than he's used to. And he still looked, durable, powerful, aggressive, all the things that make his fighting style successful. That being said, I do think that the hard ceiling he had before is still there. He's just not technically gifted, is what it is. Kevin Borjas versus Andre Lima was not great. It was won by Borjas. I was more kind to Lima on the scoring. I gave him the first and the second round. And honestly, you can argue he got the third round even. So it's weird because Lima arguably could have won all 3 rounds. But Lima has no one to blame but himself. He still can't cut the cage off properly. When he does have someone up against the cage, he doesn't unload the way that he should. He just kind of pitter-patters him. The low output is something that apparently is back. If you don't have Danny Barres right in your face the whole fight, you don't rise to the game. So do I think that Lima cleanly lost the fight? No, but I don't think he won the fight either. And I think he is to blame for the loss, essentially. Pardon me, I did score this fight for Borjas. Pulling up my scorecard now. I gave him the first 2 rounds and gave Lima the third round. Yeah, Lima did have a good third round where he knocked the mouthpiece out and did some good work. Although he did also grab the fence. So he's foul heavy. His own fight IQ is a failure. He's still young. He's 27. He can work this out. He can figure this out. I'm happy to see Borja get a win. But his reaction to this fight was Kevin Borja ran away from me and when I kicked him in the balls, he milked it. It was well, you kicked him in the balls. That's your fault. So not a good fight for him in general. So even though I think there is an argument that, in fact, Lima did win, it certainly isn't a great argument. And it's not one that's positive anyways, because he should have dominated Borjas, and he did not. Then we move on down the road to Bia Mesquita arm-barring Melissa Mullins. Mullins had her hurt. Mullins went to the ground with her. Got tapped. It is what it is. I've stated a couple of times, some people are calling this the dumbest thing ever. And the thing is that if you look at any great grappler in the history of the UFC, any massive jiu-jitsu transplant, Jacare Souza, Dean Lister, Husmar Palhares, Demian Maia, whatever it is. Palhares not really on that mold, but super dangerous for a lot of reasons. They have had at least one fight where someone has hurt them and thought, I'm a grappler, and Mullins is a black belt. I'm a grappler. I can go to the ground. I can finish this fight. So I'm not going to hold that too much against Mullins, but like, yeah, you did in fact throw yourself into danger. And you did in fact willingly go to the ground with Bia Mesquita. I don't know. I hope you realize that is a mistake. That's all I'm going to say. I'm not gonna roast her as like the worst fight IQ moment of all time, because I'm not even certain it's her worst fight IQ moment of all time. But Mesquita got the win. Is it troubling that she got hurt on the feet that well? Sure, but like, I don't know. There's just not that many people who are going to stay standing with her in the division, so it is what it is. It's not like they haven't given her people who are strong in the clinch and like theoretically can prevent takedowns. They've given her Montse Rendon. They've given her Irina Esquiva. They've given her Melissa Mullins, and like, you know, we've ended up on the ground every single time. Mitch Raposo versus Alan Nascimento. Not a good fight. Nascimento started winning and doing well in the third round when he just stepped on the goddamn gas, but by that time he was down. He was at best 1-1, because the second round there is very little to work with there in the second round. I think Raposo takes the first round fairly cleanly, but the second round is very, very close, and the third round is just all Nascimento. This is another case where like you could totally score this fight for Nascimento without controversy, but at the same time you were out there against somebody you were supposed to style on. You were supposed to have a good time with. You were supposed to steamroll, much like Andre Lima versus Kevin Borjas, and you didn't do it. And afterwards, Raposo called out Brendan Moreno. You might not be on contract though after this, my friend. They were acting like this was the last fight on his deal, and I'm not certain that this is going to earn you another contract. Gaston Bolaños versus Michael Aswell Jr. This was the classic power meets activity fight. And in the end, I gave Bolaños the second and the third round against Aswell Jr. The first and the second round. I gave Aswell the third round. I'm misremembering the order of these rounds today. I don't know what's up with me. The dynamic was really simple. It's like Aswell landed more strikes in the first and the third, apparently not the second round, and Bolaños had the more impactful ones. Aswell's problem is going to be repetitively that this guy is going to have to outwork everybody to a ridiculous level, because he can't really hurt you unless you're Lucas Almeida fighting with one hand. and that's why every fight he's had has been a close decision outside of that fight. Like, fought Luke Riley, got outlanded, lost that pretty easily. Got outlanded by Blaž Joki, lost that fight. Fought Bogdan Grad, couldn't finish him. And the takedowns got the win. It's unfortunate because like he's got a really good game put together. He's very coachable. He adapts and he does things like he's your textbook example of like a good technical fighter. It's just there's nothing backing it up. Levon Chokeli destroyed Leon Shabazian, who needs to get out of the UFC. I will say this is not the worst debut performance in UFC history. Some people were putting that out there. I still think, and I'm just quickly making sure that it was in fact his debut. It was indeed. Wade Chip. He's the guy that lost to Jonathan Wazorek when Jonathan Wazorek has admitted to having needed back surgery and clearly fought like it. He's like zombieing his way forward with his arms out, just trying to reach at him. Not here for it. That was probably the worst. But this was pretty bad. He's huge for the weight class. He's 6'4", but like that's all he's got. He's not a good striker. He's not a good grappler. He's got like he's got a couple of like cool guillotine setups. But Chokeli went out there, showed him no respect, and just dusted him. And Luana Santos out-wrestled Carol Hossa for decision. I have nothing further to say about that fight. That fight was 12 and a half minutes of Santos being on top and not doing a ton, if we're being entirely honest. Hossa being about as accurate from the bottom as she was from top, but like, you are going to lose if you're on bottom. And Shane Collins beat up on Otari Tanzalovi, who I didn't realize was actually a weight class below him. Probably would have flipped my pick on that one had I known that. Collins looked good, but I think the fight was more about Tanzalovi just not having the force power to keep up with him. Got a couple takedowns, but that was like about it. Did not do anything with the takedowns whatsoever. So, I don't know. The jury is still out on Collins, but like he didn't fail. We'll put it that way. So let's talk about the upcoming fight here. Let me just quickly simplify my little notepad here a little bit. Thank you. Rafael Fiziev versus Manuel Torres, UFC Baku. In the leadoff fight, or in the main event, we have Fiziev versus Manuel Torres, like I said. And I'm surprised to find Fiziev is the underdog here, plus 104 to minus 110, and then minus 105 to minus 112. So, depending on where you look, he's the underdog, but like, even money fight, essentially. And I'm surprised by that because, sure, Torres is a dangerous fighter, and Fiziev has not looked quite right since the Justin Gaethje fight, or at the very least since the Mateusz Gamrot fight, where he blew out his leg. The injuries seem to have caught up with him. He's aging a little bit prematurely at 33 years old. Still fast, still explosive, still strong, still all of those things. But at the same time, he had a style that was based on being very those things, and he's not necessarily very those things anymore. And he never had a great thinking mind outside of for being an opportunistic wrestler. So that's a problem. I get it. I get why we're cooled on him. But he's still tough. And Torres is a knock you out in the first round or lose fighter. Someone was talking about Fiziev having bad cardio and how that could play a role here. I don't think so. Like Torres doesn't have a style that indicates any kind of cardio, and he does not win beyond the first round in the UFC or possibly ever. One would think I would have looked this up before recording, but let's have a quick look here. Round 2 fights. Decision in 2018, split with Enrique Gonzalez. There's a couple of regional ones that don't have a thing here. And that's it. Everything else is first round wins or losses. Like, man lives or dies in the first round, and that's all there is to it. And he got melted by Ignacio Bahamondes, who's not a big puncher. So I am going to go with Fiziev, fully knowing that there are bad vibes going his way, like that he has not looked great lately. But Manuel Torres just feels like such a really straightforward challenge. I'm going to come forward. I'm going to try and find the pocket. I'm going to throw big heat. I'm going to throw hard enough that like it's going to be a dangerous fight for you. Don't get me wrong. But that Fiziev has probably the wrestling advantage, the striking advantage, the technical advantage kind of everywhere. And it's just, you should be able to do that. And if he isn't, I think we're done picking him. It's one of those fights that like if Torres comes out and nukes him, it'll be okay. Well, Fiziev is just done, and unfortunately there will be very little credit given to Torres. But Torres is a fun fighter. I feel like I've shed on him a little bit here. He's a super fun, super exciting fighter. I'm here for it. I'm here for him to fight basically anyone. It's just when it comes down to it, I don't know what he has to show Fiziev that he hasn't seen before. So Fiziev by TKO is my pick, and I'll be betting on him because he's got underdog odds some places. There is a plus next to his name in some betting books, which is, I think, just disrespectful. Michel Pereira versus Shara Bullet. Picking Shara Bullet here because Michel Pereira has broken himself. In trying to fix himself, he has broken himself. And he's lost, and he doesn't know what to do. And that Zachary's fight was just so painful. Shara Bullet is no one's idea of a textbook fighter, or a particularly good fighter, to be honest. He is powerful. He is big. He is not particularly reachy, to be honest. 73 inches at a 6'2" is not big. But he has surprisingly good range fighting for a guy who is essentially blind. But he does his best work at the edge of the pocket. And it's just, he knows what he is, and I don't know what Michel Pereira thinks he is at this point. And Pereira has cardio issues. And Pereira has durability issues. Got knocked out by Kyle Daukaus. What can you say? I think somehow that made people think that Daukaus was actually like good. And they were like thinking that he would be a proper test for Bo Nickel. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Shara Bullet by late TKO or decision. But am I super happy to bet on that? No, not really, and especially not at minus 335 to minus 400 on Shara Bullet. And But plus 260 to plus 317 on Pereira is also not wide enough. So I'm just keeping my money away from this one. So betting on Fiziev, not touching this one. Nazim Sadikov versus Matush Camilo. Camilo is the bigger hope here because he's 25 years old and maybe he can make that leap forward because he has the physical prerequisites. He has a well-rounded skill set. He has a mentality that doesn't melt, which is good. And he has, reasonably well-rounded skills and all that jazz. But the version of Camilo that we saw most recently is too shallow to win this fight. So, he has to make that jump for him to get the win. Sadikov is not especially different to him. He's just 7 years older. He's a bigger hitter, I would say, than Camilo. He's a good wrestler. He's a good grappler. He's got a little bit more depth everywhere. There's some better defensive ideas, whereas Camilo has very few. And you have to pick Sadikov here to win by probably sub, because Camilo does eventually stick his neck into things. I also understand the hype on Camilo. It's the hope. It's the hope pick. It's this kid is young. This kid has the brass tacks to be a very good fighter. And we're pretty sure that Sadikov is at the end of his development. He is the guy who went out there and lost his last fight to who was it? Who was it that beat Sadikov last time out? Right, it was Fiziev, whose stock has taken another hit. So, taking Sadikov, he is a slight favorite at minus 185 to minus 225. That's bettable. Plus 155 to plus 186 on Camilo. I don't think that is. If Camilo is a bigger underdog, I might think about it. But you're pulling for a development that is generally speaking kind of rare. Now, my underdog pick of the card, though, is Charles Johnson, who's plus 195 to plus 257 against Asu Almabayev, minus 250 to minus 300. Here's the thing. Charles Johnson has not looked particularly great lately. He has not capitalized off of what was a very big win over Loney Kavanaugh, because he followed that up by losing to Alex Perez, and then having a very unconvincing win over Bruno Silva. He can be a slow starter. He can be someone who is frustrating in some of his decisions in the fight, but he beat Azat Maxim. And it's not that he beat a Kazakhstani fighter and therefore he's going to beat another Kazakhstani fighter. It's that Azat Maxim and Asu Almabayev play really well into each other with this Kazakh style of being highly technical, being physical, being reserved, but being fundamentally a bit low output and a bit of a space neutralizer without a way of actually keeping you from taking that space. And Almabayev is very small. I understand that Maxim's run in the UFC was not especially good. I'm not even sure if he's still around. Is he? He is. He had a grappling match with Ramazan Tamarov. Yeah, other than that, it was losing to Mitch Raposo, Chadger Ulanbekov, and Charles Johnson, and beating Tyson Knapp. So 1-3. But the Ulanbekov and Johnson losses are very, 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 very understandable. And the Raposo loss was all about just, you got to do more. And that's Almabayev to a T. Almabayev has had more success because he's run into fighters that are less capable of doing anything about his low pace, because it's Ode Osborne. Ode's going to have to do something. He's going to self-destruct. CJ Vergara, very low athletic guy. I guess that's his Mitch Raposo. Jose Johnson, who he did not finish. And Jose Alche Johnson is very finishable. And then Matush Nicolau, definition of not doing enough. Losing to Mano Kape, beating Jose Ochoa. That's a win that ages, reasonably well. And then beating Alex Perez in a fight that, frankly, he was losing. And I think that's really in a nutshell, that's really the place where people are going with the Almabayev favoriteness, is that Alex Perez melted Charles Johnson. Therefore, Asu Almabayev, who beat beat Alex Perez, is going to win. And it's arguably Almabayev was down 2 rounds to none. He certainly dropped the second round, and the first round was very, very close, and then he got a guillotine. So Johnson doesn't get tapped out. For all of his losses to Mohamed Mokayev, to Sean Santella, to Brendan Raval, to Ode Osborne, to Cody Durden, to Rafael Estevan, to Ramazan Tamarov, which is, I guess, the hopeful comp for this one. He doesn't get subbed. So as long as Charles Johnson goes out there and fights fights to a decent pace, even if he's slow at the start, because he was slow at the start against Maxim, got knocked down, got taken down, lost the first round very clearly, won the next two very clearly, I think he beats Asu Almabayev. So that's my underdog pick for the card. He's plus 195 to plus 257. You can rock that. You can ride that. Bruno Ferreira, Ikram Aliskerov, and Abus Magomedov, Michael Oleksiejczuk, and Farham Hassanov and Eric Nolan, and Abdul Rahman Yakyayev versus Julius Walker. Let's just sweep these four fights away real quick. Yakyayev, Almabayev, Aliskerov, and Hassanov are all the favorites, and I'm picking them to win because there's a reason they're favorites. Bruno Ferreira is dangerous, but too small for the weight class, 5'10", 72 inches of reach. He's reliant on kind of gimmicky grappling, power in the clinch, and hitting really hard. Could he catch Aliskerov? Sure. Aliskerov does not have a uncrackable chin, but he's the better grappler on paper. He's the better striker on paper. He's the longer fighter on paper by 4 inches. And there's not really a safe way for Ferreira to enter anything. Ferreira is the exact type of guy who would get Gregory Rodriguez, and then in a rematch, get melted. So Aliskerov is my pick there by TKO. Probably, I'm thinking like a ground and pound situation, just at some point. But Ferreira is pretty durable. This could go the distance. And I'm surprised that the line favors the under, because it's minus 270 to minus 333 on Aliskerov. Under TKO is the predominant idea. And then plus 225 to plus 257 for Ferreira. Abus Magomedov, Michael Oleksiejczuk. This is about an even money fight, which makes sense, because neither of these guys are particularly good. But Oleksiejczuk against anybody who is able to weaponize grappling has historically just been a sub-loss. And Abus Magomedov may not be good at a lot. In fact, his game can be largely described as just being big. But he is big and can grapple. So, Abus Magomedov by submission. And then Farhan Hassanov versus Eric Nolan. This is just it's a prospect pick, even though it's like 30-year-old prospect is a bit weird. Hassanov's 5-0. He's very untested, but like Eric Nolan is very bleh. He's there. He's a fine testing stunt, I guess. Like, this is the perfect use of him. And they also used him against Sursakayev. So, they're using him right. But I am a little puzzled why he got signed to begin with. He's just an unathletic, do-everything kind of guy who is big. 6'2", and 74-inch reach. For example, like that's a longer reach than some of the middleweights. And I'm going to go with Hassanov, but I'm not going to be surprised if he's just not ready for any kind of pushback because we haven't seen it. Minus 163 to minus 190 on Hassanov. Plus 140 to plus 156 on Nolan. Makes sense. It's a bettable line. Julius Walker versus Abdul Rahman Yakyayev. Yakyayev is a monster. Are there flaws in him? Yes, he's not used to pushback. He's defensively defensively open, defensively vulnerable. There you go. And the problem just is Walker doesn't hit that hard. He was unable to finish Rafael Sakara, who is like the definition of fragile glass cannon. So Yakyayev to get the win by either sub or TKO. Both would be fine to think about because he kind of does both of them. Like he is the definition of I hit hard, but I also sub people. So I'll say TKO, but stoppage either way is fine. Aliskerov by TKO or decision, like I said. Magomedov by submission, and Hassanov probably goes the distance because Nolan is actually reasonably durable. Nursultan Ruziboev versus Andrei Puliev. This is a battle between two ridiculously tall dudes, 6'5", 76-inch reach versus 6'4", 78.5-inch reach. I'm a little surprised that Puliev is the underdog. He's plus 175 to plus 195, minus 203 to minus 250 on Ruziboev. I guess I get it, because at the end of the day, if you're just familiar with the UFC, we have seen Ruziboev do winning things. He has beaten Cedric Dumas, he has beaten Bruno Ferreira, he has beaten Eric Bakonico, he has beaten Dustin Stolfus, and he has lost to Joaquin Buckley, whereas Pulev has basically been the king of, I'm going to give a really good effort against somebody who is actually quite good, Christian Leroy Duncan and Atiba Gauthier, and I'm going to beat Nick Klein. And the problem is that doesn't look great, because at the end of the day, that's 1-2. And you've won once, and I think the UFC fan base knows that Nick Klein is just not very good. But I feel like Pulev is going to win this one, because as much as this fight feels like the fighter who can deal with being at reach parity more, and Pulev actually has 2.5 inches of reach. He's an inch shorter though. Is going to have the day here, because they're both guys who understandably have built a game around kind of being lazy, long fighters. I have more faith in Pulev. Ruziboev, I have more faith if this fight doesn't go the distance and he gets a finish. I could see that. He's the harder hitter. He has the better grappling game. But his fundamentals are just so bad. And he wins similar to how Leon Shabazian wins, although he's not as bad as Leon Shabazian, to be clear. But he wins by being like 6'5", and people going, "Ah, crap, what do I do about that?" Pulev is 6'4". He should be able to do something with that. I think Pulev is the better striker of the two. I think he's the better clinch fighter of the two. I think he's more durable. I think he has more energy of the two. So I'm going with Pulev by decision, and it's an underdog hot spot. So here's hoping. Here's hoping my two dog picks pull up. I have a third dog. I am less certain about it. And that's the next fight here. Con Offley versus Javier Reyes. Reyes beat Douglas Silva de Andrade. And I did not see that coming, because I just don't think he's very good. But I'm kind of left assuming that it's partially due to Douglas Silva de Andrade being himself past his best. So I'm going with Con Offley. But Reyes is dangerous. Reyes does have the physical check marks that you want in a good fighter. He is powerful. He is strong. He is big. He is not a bad grappler. I mean, it's really just a back take game, but it's there. And he ground and pounds quite well, actually. So he's dangerous. But the lack of a striking game that's reliable and the lack of a wrestling game that's particularly reliable does make me have to go with Offley. Offley is the complete opposite of Reyes. He's not particularly big, not particularly powerful, not particularly athletic, but he's reasonably well-rounded. So, like, could this be a case of, like, you know, the jock putting the nerd in the locker? Yes. It's on the table. But I am going to go with Con Offley to get a late stoppage. But, like, if you want to bet Reyes, go ahead. Like, I totally understand why Reyes is minus 188 to minus 210. We've seen him win. We've seen him do nothing but win in the UFC so far. It's one fight in, but you know what I mean. And he has the wow factor. He has the, if he can just learn some defensive striking and some better ways of approaching this on the feet and some more reliable takedowns. Dude's a monster, whereas Con Offley is Con Offley. He's what he is. He's technical, and that's about it. So Offley by TKO, he's a plus 150 to plus 186 underdogs. But I get it. And of my underdog picks, this is the one that I feel by far the least confident on, because it has very little to do with Offley and more just my inability at the moment to see Reyes as a UFC level fighter. Daniil Donchenko versus late notice replacement Theodor Berggren. Berggren is replacing Andreas Gustafsson, and I just don't think he's UFC material. He's 26 years old. He's the older fighter in this fight, but he just feels underdeveloped. He's a perfectly fine athlete. He has good size for the weight class. He's 6 feet tall at 170. But it just feels undercooked. And, like, Donchenko's got some things to work on too. But, like, he is really fast, really nice kicks, really vicious striker. Still can't believe he didn't finish Alex Morono. And he knows what to do in a wrestling and a grappling situation. Like, it's not like he's a fish out of water. Like, I would still avoid that if I were him. But he's not a terrible grappler. So I got him by TKO. He's a massive favorite. You can't bet on Donchenko minus 500 to minus 611. plus 350 to plus 424 on Berggren. I'm not going to bet on Berggren either, but there you go. There was one really, really weird prop on here, and I'm not remembering what it is now. What was it? I'm not seeing it. There was like a weird over-under that I was going to like try and capitalize off of. And, oh, it was the Torres versus Fiziev. Right. They have that as the over being the favorite, which is weird. I'm betting the under. Because, like, I mean, especially Torres being the favorite. I don't get that. Like, Torres wins the first round or he doesn't win. Come on, guys. Bekzat Almakhan. I was a hard time with his name. And Jan Matsumoto. There's not much to talk about here. Almakhan is a fun fighter. And he breaks the, like, low-pace Kazakh mold. Because he is kind of aggressive and kind of, like, really, really... He brings the fight to you. And I'm not going to hold the loss to Umar Nurmagomedov against him, but like I am going to kind of hold the loss against Alexander Topuria against him because this feels like that fight again. It's going to be Almakhan running into a stronger, more stout, more powerful, more conventional pocket fighter in Matsumoto. Matsumoto has lost some fights, and he does have some things to lose or to learn. And I will say the one thing about Matsumoto that I don't love is that his strength doesn't seem to translate into power. But he's lost to Rob Font in a close fight. And he lost to Farid Basharat in a close fight. Those are both way better technicians than Bekzat Almakhan. Almakhan is, I think, largely kind of dysfunctional for the UFC. I think this is much more like the Miles Johns fight or the Dan Argueta fight, where he's against an opponent who has formulated a game that doesn't really adapt very well. And has one kind of setting. And that is, in Almakhan's case, aggressive and fight really hard, but like without the physicality behind it. Matsumoto's minus 144 to minus 160. I have him by decision. Plus 120 to plus 138 on Almakhan. And then finally, we open up the fight card with Tahir Abdullayev versus Jefferson Nascimento. Short king fight. These guys are 5'8", fighting at 170. Nascimento is not a natural 170. He's a 155er, but he's the better fighter here. Abdullayev he's one of those bowling ball fighters. He's a power ball. He's going to come forward. He's going to try and roll over you and grapple you. He doesn't really have a striking game to speak of. Doesn't really, and I just hope Nascimento deals with that and gets like a late gets a decision when Abdullayev kind of runs out of gas. I don't know. There's not a lot of footage of either of these guys that really paints a solid picture. It's just Abdullayev has fought cans from what I have seen, and he has just bullied them. Nascimento has fought actually like functional fighters and has won. So he's the smaller guy, but he is by far the guy who I've seen more things that make me believe he is actually talented and will be in the UFC for some time going forward. It's a pick'em fight, plus 101 to minus 121 on Abdullayev, minus 103 to minus 120 on Nascimento. Makes sense. Both very much wild cards. Both may not be here at the end of their contracts because they both may just be bad. But like I said, I just have a little bit more faith in the product of the Brazilian regional scene. So that is all. Hope you enjoyed. Link tree down below with the social media stuff now on Blue Sky. And the video game stuff, which I'll be streaming tomorrow or tonight by the time you're watching this. Friday night. We'll be streaming. It'll be Super Mega Baseball and then possibly another game because me and Super Mega Baseball maybe need a little rekindling of the passion. It's been rough lately. Anyways, it's not a bad card. That being said, it does suffer from the no good co-main event one that the last one had. But a better main card, because Charles Johnson, Asu Almabayev means something. Camillo versus Sadikov means something. Alice Garrop, Bruno Fajea means something. And Asu Almabayev versus Oleksiejczyk does not mean much, but like is a fun fight. So I'll leave it at that.